And so an opportunity came in 2003. My friend at the restaurant was looking for partners or people to just kind of help him have a space. And then so I decided to say like, hey, I'm going to do it with my wife and alongside with some of our friends. So we did like a pop-up restaurant for a whole year with some of our friends at that existing restaurant. And then for now,
Hey everyone, welcome back to Empower and Elevate. Today's episode is serving up something truly special. We're sitting down with Ace Marasigan, the visionary behind Adobo Boy, a restaurant that's not just about food, but about bringing people together through the love of Filipino cuisine. Ace isn't just running a restaurant. He's creating an experience, and a very unique one at that, with its rich flavors of dishes and the deep cultural connections he fosters. His journey is one of passion, resilience, and purpose. We'll explore what inspired him, the challenges of the restaurant industry, and how he's using food to share his heritage in the most delicious way possible. Please welcome Ace.
Mark, thanks for the invite.
Definitely. I know it's been a couple weeks since I got to meet you at your location there in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Adobo Boy, man, amazing food. You and your wife, Jackie. Tell me a little bit more about it. How did you get started in the restaurant business?
Well, thanks for asking, Mark. And again, thanks for the invite. The whole story really began with Jackie and I meeting at a Filipino restaurant in 2005. And that's kind of like the love we started. And we always kind of dreamt of saying like, hey, we're ever going to work together in the future, because we decided that we need to be more intentional and spending time together as husband and wife. We always said like, hey, we're going to do something like this in the future. Be nice to be able to do a restaurant.
Okay.
And then just down the road, yes.
So you met in 2005. At what point did you two establish that you had this passion for Filipino cuisine and wanting to start a restaurant and I guess share that with others, right?
It's always been part of our culture or part of our family culture, the love of food, right? We love Filipino food, and we just wanted to make sure that we share the beauty of the cuisine. There's so much to offer. And that's something that we'd always stay with us. She loves to cook. I also love to cook. Her cooking is amazing. And so the love of the cuisine has always been there, part of the culture, part of the family. And that's always something that we've always been excited to do.
No, fantastic. So how did, when you decided, hey, we have this, want to do this thing, how did you start it? How did you start first? I guess, is that preparing for friends, relatives, family, neighbors? I guess at what point did you say, hey, and I understand you and I talked where you're at today, but how did you get to that point?
We started with where we just cook for some of our friends. We'll invite them for dinner at our house, just to host dinners. And then we would do festivals. We participated in some of the local festivals here in Grand Rapids. One is the Grand Rapids Asian Pacific Festival. And then after that, it just kind of grew, the love and excitement of being able to share the cuisine and culture with people. And so an opportunity came in 2003. My friend at the restaurant was looking for partners or people to just kind of help him have a space. And then so I decided to say like, hey, I'm going to do it with my wife and alongside with some of our friends. So we did like a pop-up restaurant for a whole year with some of our friends at that existing restaurant. And then for now, it's been 3-4 months that Jackie and I are flying solo at this location where you actually visited us, Mark.
Diving into that, what kind of challenges did you face in that first year that maybe you didn't expect, right? You're sort of just preparing food and sourcing ingredients, but what type of challenges did you face doing that?
Like some of the challenges you asked me. So some of the challenges that just to kind of get started was like the whole premise, like you just getting started. Like the best part of starting something new is try not to talk yourself to not do it. And so
Mhm.
the biggest challenge that we had is how do we get it started? And good thing that we had all these friends that has their own restaurants who are very, very accommodating and very encouraging, saying like, "Hey, you just got to do it. You will learn from experience," and that's kind of like how we get started.
No, I know firsthand, obviously, when I get to areas I haven't been in a lot of times, bigger cities, right? I'm in a very rural area here. Um, but I might pull up the Google and I do a quick search and see if by chance there's any Filipino food nearby, right? And I was, shocked when I saw just a short drive away, a few minutes away was this restaurant that was opening at 5 p.m. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. There's no way, right? So, and I think through our conversation, quickly found out that you're like it. There's really nothing else around the area, the Grand Rapids area there, serving Filipino dishes, correct?
That is correct. We are the only restaurant currently in West Michigan. I mean, we have friends who, like they're great cooks as well,
Uh-huh.
and I'm hoping that in the future that they will feel encouraged and empowered that they can do exactly what we're doing. And so I'd love to see more Filipino restaurants pop up in the future. But for now, we are it.
You're it. Well, I'm one to say I'd love to see more as well, just everywhere, right? Go and make. I think that Americans are missing out on some amazing food by
Yep.
having so little Filipino options. He said Colorado Springs is out my mother's area, and I found maybe one specific Filipino restaurant, that I haven't yet to get to experience yet because I was sick. But there were some other, maybe we were mixing maybe some Hawaiian food with some Filipino food, but they weren't dedicated to strictly Filipino cuisine.
We decided that we are going to be strictly as authentic as possible, and the only limitations we'll have are the ingredients. We can't obviously get all the possible ingredients that we want to use, but that will be the only restrictions. And the whole goal is to represent the culture and the cuisine of the Filipino culture,
Yeah.
and be really proud of what we can offer. And I've seen some places where a fusion has been created. More power to that. I love what they're doing, but I just believe there's such a beauty on the authenticity of just being true to what you can offer, and as much as possible, we just want to be like strictly just Filipino.
No, love it. And I met your wonderful wife Jackie, and there in person, and you yourself, and you were very accommodating. And I walked in the door, right, like going like, oh, this guy, he's so friendly, and like you were very welcoming, and I really appreciated that. And a lot of times in restaurants these days, it's hard to find good service and good food, and that combination together, and people that really appreciated being there, and I really felt that. Um,
That's one. That's wonderful to hear, Mark. I mean, that's just part of the Filipino culture. I mean, if you have been to the Philippines, I know you have,
mhm.
but you can feel that in the presence of the people. That's something that's ingrained in us. The hospitality, making sure that people feel very welcome at home.
No, I love it. And yes, you're right. I experienced that firsthand just a few months ago when I was in the Philippines, and along with some amazing food. And, I had some assistance ordering off your menu. And my understanding, your menu rotates a little bit on a week-to-week basis, but, with some variety. But, some of the items on that ordered was specifically mentioned that it's hard to find those at a restaurant because really that was kind of like a home-style cooked food. So,
Yes,
you
exactly.
get.
Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
No, I said, so, help me understand as far as bringing that, not necessarily commercial or restaurant, but bringing a home style cooked entrees or options to share.
Like I had a customer on Friday. Actually, on Friday, he perfectly said what we were trying to accomplish.
Okay.
He said he felt like he was eating at home in a home cooked meal, prepared in love,
Mm-hmm.
but presented in such a wonderful way. That he said like he presented like he felt like he was attending a higher end restaurant, and but with the feel of like, hey, I'm sitting here at home with people that loves what they're doing. And so I think that is the best way to summarize the way our cuisine is presented at our
Mm-hmm.
restaurant. We just want to make sure we share the love, but we also want to level up the presentation because we want to make sure it's respected and it's also a great representation of who we are as Filipino.
No, great. So let's go back a little bit. Can you share some of your earliest, I guess, memories of Filipino food?
Well, I grew up in the Philippines. I grew up in Manila, and Balotong, Manila to be exact. And all I can remember is just my mom and my grandma in the kitchen, just toiling away, preparing foods that I enjoy. I remember my mom just, like also allowing me to be in the kitchen and, like cutting up vegetables or actually doing some of the cooking at 6 or 7 years old. So I just remember just all the different tastes. And then when you go to your cousins, your uncles, and then in the Philippines, there's so many different times that I feel like we make up festivals and events because we want to have an opportunity, a chance to invite our friends and family to just gather in a town. And so when you go to towns, everybody's so welcoming. Everybody wants you to eat. It's like one of the greetings that you go into a Filipino home is the first thing they ask you is like "Kumain ka na ba?" Which is have you eaten? I mean, that's our love language, right? We want to make sure that you're perfectly fed, and this is how we share our love with people.
Well, I know I felt that love when I was in the Philippines because there wasn't a day that went by that I probably wasn't almost ill from the amount of food that was being fed, right? Like going, it was nonstop. But, that allowed me to experience so much. But, once again, in smaller portions, so I could sample a lot. And so you said you're originally from Manila area, right? And my understanding is your wife is not.
She was born in Mindanao, which is the southern part of the Philippines, but she also grew up in Davao City. And so that was where she grew up. The Philippines being an archipelago, having 7,641 islands, we all develop our own like cooking styles. I mean, what something that we would share at a restaurant, adobo, like the process of the cooking adobo can be different from like different from families, and like it's just so different from different regions, but all share this kind of like same kind of common basic using the soy sauce, vinegar, and it's just the cooking process. And so I could say like even though she's from Davao City, she and I have a shared love for food, and like the cooking of food might be different, but it's still showcase the beauty of the Philippines.
Yeah, and that's something I was going to ask you with your wife being, I guess, raised in a different portion of the Philippines, right? Different region of the Philippines. And we know that obviously dialects can be so drastically different in short distances, but then on the food, and her upbringing and how does that differ from yours and how you were used to things being made in Manila?
Uh, the same I believe the same thing applies for the
Same thing
families in
applies.
the Philippines, right? Because it's just like your family, your familials.
Hmm.
They're always going to be taking care of you. They're going to share with you the way that they would prepare meals. Like the whole idea is like, hey, we all spend time together in the table. We'll share with you how we cook it because there was no cookbooks before, right? It was all about um, verbally sharing the cuisine, the recipes being passed down from generations to generations, and also being passed down to different region. My wife, she speaks four different dialects or four different languages,
Hmm.
and so for that, I am so proud of her that she's able to just communicate with me in Tagalog, and she knows that like the way we do it in Tagalog can be similar to Davao City as well. And so it's such a beautiful thing when everything kind of comes together and culminates into this like beautiful cuisine that's presented in front of you.
No, that's really cool. And you said as far as the cuisine, you mentioned vinegar you mentioned soy sauce, right? What are some of the key ingredients that is most general in most of the cuisine or most of your offerings? I guess. I mean, is it mostly soy, mostly vinegar? Are there other things that are kind of a staple across the board?
So I would say vinegar is a big uh, use for us at the restaurant, but vinegar has always been something that's been used. Like the early accounts for adobo cuisine or the way the process was, vinegar was used for preservative, and that was also used as a way to cook the meats
Mm-hmm.
The soy sauce was introduced by the Chinese later on, and later on, but the term adobo, when the Philippines was colonized by Spain, the Spanish called that indigenous cuisine or way of preparing meats or cooking as adobo or adobar, like to marinate. And so it just kind of stuck. But it's
Okay.
the vinegar is like the big thing that Filipinos would probably use us at the restaurant. We need it. We love it. We love the taste of it. We love things that are sour, like sinigang, but things like that is always is something that we do.
So the recipes you use in your adobo, are those traditional, are those either your family or her family recipes, or is that a combination of both?
It's a combination of both. Both the taste that we love and like something that we know that our son would enjoy, and so it's really combination of the two of us.
Mhm.
Mostly, just going with the basics, right? The soy sauce and vinegar, and just like developing that taste from there.
So the name Adobo Boy, obviously we know where adobo comes from. How did you settle on the name Adobo Boy, you and the wife?
It's kind of funny that you asked that. So Adobo Boy is really a nickname for our son. So when he was 3 years old, he's tasted pork adobo, and he always asked his mom for adobo. Always, saying like, "Mom, I want some adobo." And then we just started calling him Adobo Boy, and that moniker just kind of like stuck with him. And then we would always said like, "Hey, if we ever open up a restaurant or something food related in the future, or any business in the future, that we would call it Adobo Boy." And we just love that name because it represents us, but
Yeah.
also represents what we're doing for our son Red.
You said his name is Red?
His name's Red.
All
So
right.
Red is a combination of Ray
Uh-huh.
and Ed. My wife's dad's name's Ed. My dad, his name was Ray.
That's very interesting because recently, actually, I have one team member that's on maternity leave right now, and she shared with us and basically how she's coming up with the baby's name, and it was like a combination of like 3 or 4 names put together, right? And like going, well, that's really interesting. It's not just finding a name, or it's like going, it was like 3 or 4 names they combined.
I don't know if we were following any traditional norm, but we just wanted to make sure we honor both of our fathers. And I don't know we came up with a different combination, but the name Red was just something that's easier to kind of say.
Now, what type of, I guess, feedback? Obviously, someone like myself coming in and raving about your food. When I was sitting in there, I heard a gentleman walk in and he was talking with you, and he's like, "I've never had Filipino food," right? And do you get a lot of that? People walking in and go, "Hey, I've never experienced Filipino food," and what kind of feedback do you get from them?
We do experience a lot of people saying that this is their first time being at a restaurant, not just a restaurant, or being exposed in Filipino cuisine
Mhm.
altogether. And that really excites me is that I have this pride, or just not pride, more like, like in the excitement, and because for the love of being able to share our culture. And so the feedback after they've tasted the food, and I would check on them just to make sure they're doing okay. Most of the time they would say like, this is a food that they've never tasted before, and it's wonderful. And when they say that, it gives me so much joy, because it gives me so much joy that my wife, she works so hard to make those food, and when people are appreciative of it, and really honestly, when because I want to make sure it's true and honest, and they would say like, "No, no, we're not kidding. We're so honest that your food is amazing, and we never realized Filipino food to be like this. We want to try more." And so that for me is the best feedback and best
Yeah.
compliment. When they say, "We want to try more. We want to try something else. We want to try more."
And what percentage of those that come in for their first time um, have a good experience and tell you they obviously they enjoyed the experience that you see come back?
It's probably a good 85 to 90%.
Oh,
Some
nice.
people who never come back will just say like, "I'm only here in town for a day or two,
Mhm.
but if I ever come back in town, then I will come back." So 80, 90%, I would say. Um, out of the 80 to 90%, when they come back, they do actually bring their families or someone with them. And so for me, that is the best compliment. It means that they felt proud of sharing our cuisine, and they felt like this is something that their friends needed to experience. So for us, that's a great return
Hmm.
rate, and also great, great feedback.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And he said that that's a compliment in itself, right?
Mhm.
And you said you were originally from Manila. You're both, obviously, you and your wife both from the Philippines. What brought you here? What brought you to the U.S.?
So my wife, she moved here for work, and for us, my American story is my sister married an American,
Okay,
and
and
so
that
that's how we that's my American story. My wife's American story is she moved here for work.
okay. So she moved here from work, and then once she was here, decided to stay, type of thing, or when she, did she change employers? I guess I'm kind of curious, like if she was on assignment. How did that work for her?
Yeah, she came here for work. She's a nurse, so she
Okay.
ended up working in the hospital, and that's what she was doing. And then and eventually, after a while, she just she just kept working. She's got a she was a resident, and then we
Mhm.
ended up like meeting, and then we ended up getting married, and we're both American citizens,
Mhm.
and that's who we are.
And as far as your sister coming here, right? You said your sister, correct?
My
And
sister and I'm marrying an American. Yes.
yes. And did it take much to convince you to come, or is that something you're like going? Is that something you kind of always eyed going? Doing something different and moving to the U.S. or
Uh, I was I was young,
okay,
so there there's really no option if your parents are moving. Eventually, you have to move too. So
gotcha.
well, that's what you get.
Well, and just curious because I hear a lot of different stories, right? And I hear those that even some of our team members talk about relocating somewhere, whether it's Canada or some other country at some point, just for different opportunities. And
Yeah, I think that's always something that people, when I was younger, we always talked about how it's great to be in America, um, and something that I don't think a lot of people realize. It is a great land of opportunity, but you do have to make your path, and so it's an opportunity, and there's a chance for you to make it if working hard and
Mhm.
just trying to follow your dreams.
So when I was there, you mentioned, and you mentioned here about the pop up and 3 Months Known. You also mentioned that of potentially looking for a new home for Adobo Restaurant, right? Adobo Boy Restaurant. Um, it sounds like that's the challenge that you're currently faced with, right? You're looking for potentially another place to move the restaurant to.
That is currently the challenge, and we are we are probably going to be leaving the location that currently we are right now, and we've set a date that our last time we're going to be serving food at that location will be March 22nd, which is coming up soon.
Yeah,
So
it'll be here before we know it.
the challenge now is really to find the next spot. There's a couple places that we already identified.
Okay.
We've sent our letter of intent, meaning that we are, like talking to the landlords and trying to see if we could negotiate and find the perfect win-win for both of us to be able to operate and for them to make money. So trying
Yeah.
to figure out if that would make sense, and hopefully we'll hear something from them this week. If not, we're just going to keep looking. We'll let March 22nd go. We, Eventually, we'll come back.
So, as a business owner, talk to me a little bit about that, right? So, what you said, the challenge of that, but and negotiating. What are some of the things and challenges that you face? When you're do these negotiations, what are you looking for? What kind of obstacles you're trying to remove or barriers you get around? Help me understand. Is it the build outs? Is it finding something that's already set how you want it? I mean, what kind of things are you looking for?
Well, having something that's already set as a previous restaurant would be the most easiest way for us to
Hmm.
continue and operate. That would be probably the cheapest option and also the quickest option. But right now, there are only a couple handful that I could look at and say like that's the one I want. we are really looking into doing a build out. A build out is something that we have to start from scratch. You got to put all the kitchen equipment, and that gives us the best way to really feel like that space belongs to us, where we can design it like the way we want it. We can make it as efficient to the way we're doing the cooking. And so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a place where we can do a build out. Um, but yes, obviously, we're not going to say no if there's an actual restaurant that's open. They're looking for different owners, then we would definitely look at that as an option as well. But a build out is what we want. Some of the challenges really is like, the negotiating part is like, we want a win-win, right? If the rent is too high, where we're going to be stressed, we're not going to be able to continue. That's really no good for us, and it's also no good for the landlord, because if we end up folding within 6 months, and that's really not good for them either.
Sure, sure. Now, through that process, I mean, are there loan applications? Are you talking to the SBA? Are there other organizations supporting the causes? I'm just kind of curious, what kind of avenues you've looked at for assistance to get that off the ground and help that search maybe be a little bit easier.
So for now, what we're doing is I applied for a one loan for now, and I'm just waiting for what happens, because this loan I got through the local community is probably like one of the most lowest price interest loan that I could use for the equipment, and I want to see how's that taking place. And so once that is all set, I will try to see what's the next steps. An SBA loan, small business administration loan, other small business loans that we could possibly take. And, we have some savings that we're going to use as well. We also started a GoFundMe, and that's pretty amazing that some of our friends already has started donating to that. And we'll just see what happens. And like what I was telling everybody, if somehow we end up not opening up another restaurant, then we just return the money from the GoFundMe. I don't want to use my retirement fund, but we have to, then that's something that we can also use. There's many avenues that we're trying to still see. So we'll see what happens, Mark, in a week or so. And so it's challenging, exciting, but it's something that we want to do.
Well, and that's, I ask because, a lot of our listener base and a lot of our, is business owners, or those maybe that have an interest in business. And so I always ask about the challenges and the type of avenues you're looking at. And because we're real here, right? Like go and have real conversations and say, hey, look, because we have a local Mexican restaurant that recently got some grant money, to help build the facade and help get them in this new location for their ice cream shop, and so I'm always curious about, what resources, are you out there finding that can help you and maybe help others, right?
No, that's absolutely true. So the one I'm using is through a local place called Grow, which is Grand Rapids Opportunities. Initially, it's called Grand Rapids Opportunities for Women, but Grow just became something that's for the whole community. So they have this loan of $50,000 that you can use for equipment, inventory, and staffing. So that's something I applied for. Currently, it's underwriting, so I believe that we're going to be able to get that. We got some savings that we're going to use up. Then once we are approved for the $50,000 money with the lower interest rate, then yes, we're definitely going to look into a small business loan. And I'm searching right now for grants. And so if there's ways to be able to start this business in as little stress as possible, would probably be the best for us.
Well, sure. And less debt, right? To carry over have it hanging over your head. And that's why I'm curious about grants and things. And, when you talk about the culture aspect, are there culture organizations out there that maybe there's some funding available to help the cause?
Not easily or readily available, but definitely there are some opportunities that we're going to be looking at hopefully sometime this week or next week. I'm just waiting to make sure that we can land a space, because that's probably the biggest challenge there is like, like, hey, can we land this space into the rate that we want,
Hmm.
or close to the rate that we want, and to the terms that make sense to us? And so once we land that, then I'm going to go full stream 100%
Okay.
into just like looking for all the different possible grant money, um, loans, yes, for sure, but trying to look for the smaller, lower price loans.
Yeah. And the application process, you know, applications usually aren't fun. You know, that's pretty in depth with the things you're applying for.
There's a lot of things that they did ask for. They asked for our personal returns, our profit and loss uh,
Hmm.
books, our financials, things that they would make sense to them to see. And so there's a lot of things that they're collecting. There's things that they would ask for. Uh, all they wanted to make sure is that we're going to be able to pay back the loan,
Oh,
and
sure.
that makes a lot of sense to us, right? And so make it as easy as possible for them to collect what they need, and we'll just see what happens next. Yes, there's a lot of process in this application, but once you collected all the forms and the things that you need for one, it's pretty much like what they were going to be asking for the other one. So
Okay.
kind of excited to be able to just kind of go into another place and say like, hey, are you able to give us a loan at a lower rate, and fill up those application.
Now, I did notice, I did see that you had kicked off a fundraising campaign. It looks, and I looked prior to this episode or recording this here with you, is you were at $3,810 so far of a $5,000 goal that you're working towards. Congratulations, by the way. That's phenomenal that you've made that big of a dent in that goal so far. I guess how do you feel about that progress?
That's amazing because we just put it in there. We didn't do any much more campaigning for it because I also don't feel right just asking people for money. But this is the time that we actually would need some assistance from our friends
Sure.
who believes in what we're doing. And 5,000 can go a long way. That could be potentially a freezer and a fridge that we could buy
Hmm.
for the restaurant, or a stove, and so that can go a long way. Having we went through a construction company for estimation in this one space that we're looking at. When they gave us an estimation cost that made me almost puke, I turned to our restaurant friends, and one of them said like, "Hey, I'm going to help you build this place from the ground up. Exactly how I did my restaurant. I did it by myself. Well, like I hired the people that needs to do the things, and it cost me way, way less. It cost him a third from what the estimation was." And so
Oh, wow.
really excited about the friends that we've developed along the way here in Grand Rapids,
Yeah.
and people here are very philanthropic and very helpful. And so for us, uh, that's the first step. And so the first step really is just secure that place, and we're
Mhm.
going to get going.
No. So, and as far as in your market, I know in a lot of other markets, I see there's a lot of empty commercial buildings. Even though the commercial real estate isn't necessarily, at its peak, right? I mean, they have another for other friends in real estate. They don't even touch commercial right now. Is that helping you in your search? Do you think at all, or are you still struggling regardless?
No, it's very helpful in negotiating. We found a space that we believe is the right spot for us. It's closer to our home,
Convenience.
closer to convenience, but it's also a very busy intersection. So
Okay.
for us, we just want to make sure that we could be in a spot where be good for businesses, but also be closer to residentials, because our restaurant is built upon family dynamic, right? We want families to come and visit us and spend their time with us,
Mhm.
get to know the culture. So that's a spot that we would want. We prefer that people don't just come in and out. We want to be able to spend time with them. We want them to spend some time with us, and so hopefully that's the location that is going to be done. That's where we send our letter of intent,
Mhm.
and we're hoping that we could meet halfway to what we want and what they want, and where it makes sense to us. If not, like you said, there are plenty of other open spaces right now, but they also have to make sense, right? The
Yeah.
location has to make sense, and so that's where we are. But definitely helpful in the negotiating part.
Yeah, and I know even those that have negotiated, renegotiated, or even other businesses, right, that have recently moved just to the fact that there is some leverage out there due to a lot of just the economy the way it is. A lot of things have changed in the past 5 years, 6 years, drastically. So, as far as you talked about this build out cost being high. We see everything seems to be high these days, right? I mean, goodness, currently look at the price of a dozen eggs, right? I'm saying is everything's high. And I have another gentleman I'm friends with, and he's been working on a build out, and things that he priced a year ago, 2 years ago is like doubled, right? And it's just crazy, and it's a restaurant type environment, but and obviously you're experiencing that too, really high price to build out.
Yes, I mean the price on the build out is astronomical, and I makes you kind of like wonder, what are we doing? Are we in the right business? Is the
Yeah.
return on investment
Maybe
here?
we should do build
Can't take
outs
forever.
instead.
Yes. Um, like the estimated price that that construction company gave us, I keep thinking about like how many food do we have to sell to be able to even just catch up with that,
Yeah.
and so that is a challenge, and I can see why not a lot of people would want to open up a restaurant. There's a lot of initial costs. There is a
Yeah.
lot of things that you have to traverse and kind of figure out, hey, where we are in this adventure. But hopefully we're not done yet, Mark. Hopefully we'll find the right spot and
Oh,
we'll
you're
be
not
able
done
to.
yet. You're not done
Well,
yet. You got too much to offer. So let's talk about not being done yet. Obviously, Adobo Boy isn't just a restaurant to you. I'm really
it's
sensing it's not just a restaurant. Um,
mhm.
so could you share, I guess, the legacy that you hope to build for your family and the community through Adobo Boy?
The dream is to be able to have a place where we can say we're truly who we are, and also be a place where all our friends can be who they are, regardless race, religion, gender, and be able to say like, hey, this place is truly a place of belonging. The Philippines and the people were so accepting, right? And so that's the thing that we wanted to share here in our location. Um, Despite all the noises out there saying that we should be divisive, but this is a place that like the legacy here is be able to share with our son who we are as people. We are a people who are accepting and
Mhm.
always making sure that we include people around us. And so that's the legacy that we want to leave here in West Michigan, and hopefully to our son, who if he continues to own the restaurant.
No, that's very cool. I can definitely appreciate what you're doing and what you want to do. Um, let's have some fun here. And adobo can't be the answer. Adobo can't be the answer. But
Okay,
if you could only eat one Filipino dish other than adobo forever, what would that be?
forever. Oh my goodness, that's a tough one. Oh, there's so many good food, Mark.
I know,
But
I know.
uh, if I could have one food I would eat every day besides adobo, would probably be sinigang. So that's the tamarind-based soup, the sour soup, because I think it's such a versatile kind of soup. I could eat it
Okay,
with anything, with rice, but that would probably be it.
that'd be it. All right.
It has to be either adobo or that one. Yes.
Well, I'm always curious, right? Like going, but especially if somebody, you're in the restaurant business, you're in the food business, and you got this. It's like, hey, besides the adobo's in the name, but you just got to pull that out. What is something else that you really would, And then, I've come to find that Filipinos are big on karaoke, and I think
Yeah.
I've seen some of that in your social media feeds as well. So, with that being said, what's your go-to song when it comes to karaoke?
Wow. I have so many go-to songs, but in the past, I used to um, to join this performing group, and I branded myself as the impersonator of Elvis impersonator. So if I
Ah,
were ever to do a karaoke song, it would have to be an Elvis song.
an Elvis song.
And yes, it's something that I enjoy. Um, yeah, it has to be an Elvis song.
Okay, well,
Probably the "Can't Help Falling in Love," and probably if it's a song.
wonderful, wonderful. It's always interesting. Once again, I couldn't help it, but experienced a lot of karaoke just passing through streets and things. And, I hear from my teammates, they've got the jeepney drivers that get off shift and they're at karaoke next door and they can't sleep. And so, yeah, it's an abundance in the Philippines. There's a lot of karaoke going on.
That's true, and that's what we do after we shut down the restaurant at night. We were so tired, but hey, we unwind with a couple songs and just and then we end the night there.
So in the kitchen, I know you said your wife does cook, you're cooking. Biggest memorable mishap you've had in the kitchen?
Yeah, it's probably my wife. I think she and my friend, when we did the pop up, they almost burned down the kitchen, and that
Oh,
was only it was on day one, and so that was probably the most memorable mishap.
what happened?
They left something on the stove. They did not realize the stove was on because we're so brand new in that space, and the thing just caught on fire. And good thing they were able to extinguish it before it gets any bigger.
Yeah, good
We're
thing.
just laughing about that experience.
That's not the way you want to start things off, is burning down the
No,
kitchen, right?
not
Like,
the first
oh goodness. All right. Well, Ace, let's some final thoughts here. So, what advice would you give someone? Obviously, you're on this journey, and everyone's in a different place on their journeys. But if you had someone that was looking to get into the restaurant business, especially based off of what your family traditions and culture, what's one piece of advice you'd want to give them?
It's important to plan, but it's very important to take action. And so the advice I could give you, get to know some of the details, but you have to make sure that you have an action plan, that you are actually going to take action into pursuing what you want to do. Because that's where a lot of people kind of stumble and just say I can't do it. There's too many details. There's too many things that I need to do. You just have to do it. And the rest will fall into place.
Just got to do it.
That's the problem. Just do it.
Just do it. All right. I think there's a slogan out there somewhere, right?
Yeah. I think they took it from there.
All right. Where can you be found? Online, social media?
Yeah. So for now, just find us on our website, which is adoboboygr.com, in our Facebook and Instagram at Adobo Boy GR. And so hopefully we'll find you guys on Instagram, Facebook. We also have a TikTok.
Okay.
Or do some dances, because at the end of the week, my wife and I, and sometimes our guests will do a quick end of the week dance and just saying thank you for the visit, and thank you for the support, and thank you for joining us in this journey.
Very cool. Now, I'm going to say that with that, we'll list all your socials. We'll try to find them all and get them all listed in the description of the show so people can make it easier on them to find you. And, anyone's in the area by Grand Rapids, even make the trip. I know, I don't know that if I can make it for March 22nd, but I'm sure going to try to get back up there and experience you one more time before you get moved. And I know it's going to happen, and good things are yet to come for you and Jackie. I appreciate your hospitality. I appreciate your food. I appreciate your culture. And I appreciate you for taking the time for us today.
Well, we are very appreciated that you invited us in your podcast. And if you have any Filipinos listening today and just want to say, well, not just Filipinos, for everybody, maraming salamat means thank you very much for allowing us to be here. And, mabuhay to the Philippines and mabuhay to you, Mark. And thank you for everything.
Thank you, Ace. And and that GoFundMe is out there. And we'll be throwing something your way too very shortly. So anything we can do to help.
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you, brother.
Have
Thanks
an
so
awesome
much,
day. Bye, my friend. Hi, I'm Mark Thomas, founder and CEO of Current Tech Solutions and Cyber Guardians. We know business owners like you want to focus on growing your company not worrying about IT problems or security threats. That's where we come in. Our team uses AI to protect your business from cyber risks and keep everything running smoothly. If you're ready for peace of mind and a stronger future, reach out to us today. Let's secure and elevate your business together.